and a Louis Vuitton that they got at the designer store, because I need to see a side-by-side. I have to know if there's any discrepancies or any differences, or is it the exact same thing? Because I'm starting to feel ripped the fuck off right now. I got a closet full of this shit that I paid thousands for, and you're telling me it's all been made in China and I could have just gone straight to China and gotten this shit? It just can't be the same. It cannot be the same. And if it is, damn, we all got played. Well, not all of us, but a lot of us. Seriously, please don't tell me I got played. I refuse to believe that there's no difference.
Kanye West just shattered the luxury world, not with a headline-grabbing stunt or a surprise Yeezy drop, but with something far more disruptive: receipts. Not metaphorical ones, actual contracts. Leaked documents that allegedly reveal one of the biggest secrets in fashion. These aren't just generic papers or fan theories. They reportedly show that Louis Vuitton, the crown jewel of European luxury, has been outsourcing to Chinese manufacturers for years while flaunting a Made in France badge like a mark of divine craftsmanship. It's a revelation that doesn't just bruise Louis Vuitton's image, it threatens to detonate the entire high-end fashion ecosystem. For decades, brands like Louis Vuitton have sold more than just bags. They've sold mythology, of artisans stitching in idyllic French villages, of exclusive ateliers that guard their secrets like treasure. But what happens when that illusion collapses? What if the $1,000 bag wasn't born in Paris but pumped out in Shenzhen? Kanye's alleged leak is more than a feud or a publicity stunt. It's a wrecking ball aimed at the foundation of luxury branding. And the internet is watching, closely, furiously, and with millions of TikToks to prove it. This is no longer just a story about Louis Vuitton. It's a story about what luxury really means and who's been lying to you all along. For decades, Louis Vuitton stood as the symbol of prestige, quality, and European elegance. But behind closed doors, a different story was unfolding. The leaked contract reportedly contains damning details. Multiple production agreements with Chinese factories, complete with production quotas, inspection schedules, and even non-disclosure clauses to keep the truth sealed tight. According to the documents, the brand's most coveted items may have spent more time in Guangdong than in Paris. On TikTok, factory employees and whistleblowers have begun showing footage of what they claim are authentic Louis Vuitton bags being assembled in China. These aren't grainy fakes or obvious knockoffs. They're nearly identical to the bags sold in boutiques for thousands of dollars. With stitching lines, heat stamps, and branded hardware, these clips have thrown gasoline on an already spreading fire. The most infuriating part for consumers isn't the fact that production was outsourced, it's the deception. The Made in France tag was supposed to stand for excellence, not corporate trickery. Now customers are beginning to question whether they were ever buying quality or just a fantasy wrapped in luxury packaging. 10 years ago, this kind of scandal might have been buried in fashion forums or brushed off by PR teams. But today, social media is the new courtroom, and TikTok is ground zero. The moment Kanye's alleged contract leak hit the internet, creators mobilized like investigators. With millions of followers and high-definition cameras, they began scrutinizing luxury handbags under bright ring lights. Side-by-side comparisons flooded the app, showing Louis Vuitton bags purchased from official boutiques contrasted with products sourced from Chinese manufacturers. The shocking takeaway? Most viewers couldn't tell the difference. In clip after clip, creators zoomed in on stitching patterns, tested leather textures, and flipped bags inside out to compare lining, heat stamps, and zippers. Some even used UV lights to analyze finishes. And the conclusion was damning. The materials, design, and construction were almost identical, right down to the embossed logos. What separated the $3,000 Louis Vuitton from a $200 factory-made counterpart wasn't craftsmanship. It was branding. If this came from the same production line, one TikToker asked, then what exactly did I pay for? That question echoed across millions of screens, and the comment sections exploded with fury. Soon, hashtags like luxury lies, a fake flex, and made in began trending globally. What started as speculation morphed into a digital uprising. Creators weren't just venting, they were leading a movement. Videos shifted from product reviews to open calls for accountability. We want transparency, users demanded. If it's made in China, say it. TikTok didn't just document the scandal. it amplified it. It transformed passive frustration into organized outrage. And for the first time, global luxury consumers realized they had power, not just to call out brands, but to hold them accountable in real time, in front of millions. Kanye West has always been seen as a disruptor in the fashion world, but what if he was also the industry's most ignored truth teller? Years before this leak went viral, Kanye allegedly got his hands on the contract now rocking Louis Vuitton's foundations. Sources close to the situation claim it happened during a heated dispute with LVMH executives, the very gatekeepers of elite fashion. At the time, his warnings were dismissed as ego-driven rants. He wasn't just rejected from fashion's inner circle, he was ridiculed, painted as a bitter outsider who didn't belong in the world of high-end couture. But in light of recent events, those same critics are being forced to revisit what he said and what they chose not to hear. According to insiders, Kanye didn't sit on the information quietly. He allegedly tried to warn people about what he'd found, about how the biggest names in fashion were hiding their supply chains behind glossy European facades. But no one listened. His claims were waved off as just another Kanye controversy. Fast forward to now, and the very documents he reportedly tried to expose are being dissected by millions online. Consumers are connecting the dots. They're remembering the times Kanye questioned the fashion system, demanded transparency, and got laughed out of the room.
And now that the evidence is surfacing, one question keeps echoing across the internet. Was he right all along? Supporters aren't calling this a leak. They're calling it a whistleblower moment. To them, Kanye isn't a jilted designer seeking revenge.
He's a cultural disruptor, holding the fashion elite accountable for decades of deceit. His actions are reigniting conversations about transparency, corporate ethics, and who gets to control the narrative in luxury branding. In a world where illusion sells for thousands, Kanye's alleged decision to leak the truth is being seen as an act of rebellion and a warning. Because when perception is currency, exposing the lie is the most dangerous move of all. The phrase "made in France" has long been a sacred hallmark of luxury, invoking images of master artisans, centuries-old techniques, and meticulous craftsmanship deep in the hills of Provence. But what if that label was nothing more than a marketing trick? The most explosive part of Kanye's leaked contract isn't the factory names or even the production volumes. It's the fine print, the legal agreements that allegedly bind Chinese manufacturers to silence. According to the document, factories were required to avoid all branding, never reveal their connection to Louis Vuitton, and quietly ship products overseas for minimal final touches in France. Just enough to qualify for that prestigious but highly misleading label. This loophole, while technically legal in many countries, walks a dangerous ethical line. To the average customer, "Made in France" suggests total European origin. But in reality, that $3,000 bag may have spent 95% of its life in an industrial Chinese warehouse, only to have its strap stitched on in Paris before being boxed in designer packaging. It's a calculated game of perception, a shell game where consumers are tricked into paying premium prices for products that aren't remotely what they were led to believe. The craftsmanship they paid for? It might have never touched European soil. The emotional fallout has been brutal. Fashion lovers who once felt proud carrying Louis Vuitton are now grappling with betrayal. "I thought I was buying legacy. Turns out I bought a lie," one user wrote on Twitter. Another furious buyer on Instagram posted, "If only the handle was made in France, then what did I actually pay for?" These reactions aren't rare. They're flooding timelines, forums, and comment sections. Consumers aren't just disappointed, they feel scammed. Because for years, the luxury industry didn't just sell handbags. It sold a story. And now, that story is unraveling in real time. It didn't take long for the outrage to leap from TikTok feeds to the polished floors of Louis Vuitton boutiques. Within hours of Kanye's alleged contract leak going viral, chaos erupted in luxury storefronts across Beverly Hills' Fifth Avenue, Paris's Champs-Élysées, and London's Bond Street. But this wasn't the quiet kind of scandal brands are used to sweeping under velvet rugs. It was loud, messy, and public. Shoppers stormed in, phones in hand, demanding receipts. Not for price, but for truth. One now viral clip shows a furious woman slamming her $3,000 LV Speedy on the counter, her voice shaking with betrayal. Prove it was made in France. I want proof. The anger wasn't isolated. Videos surfaced from Paris, where crowds gathered outside Louis Vuitton's flagship store, confronting staff and asking to see country of origin documentation. "Don't give me stories, give me facts," one man shouted, waving a TikTok video showing near-identical bags on a Chinese factory floor. Meanwhile, store employees, caught between corporate silence and public fury, fumbled to offer refund forms and vague customer service lines. The tension was palpable. Customers weren't just upset, they felt lied to, and they were done being polite about it. The outrage quickly spread beyond store walls. Influencers who once proudly flaunted their luxury hauls now began dismantling them, literally. Instagram Reels and TikToks flooded the algorithm, showing users comparing stitch counts, embossing details, and materials. Some even cut open their bags, desperate to expose what was hidden inside. "This used to be a flex," one creator said, holding up a Speedy bag. "Now it's a $3,000 embarrassment." The backlash wasn't just about fashion, it was about trust. Consumers realized they weren't just buying a bag, they were buying a lie wrapped in designer packaging. And the moment that illusion cracked, it sparked a global retail rebellion. As the scandal gained traction, the luxury resale market, once seen as a safe haven for collectors, began to unravel at a frightening pace. Within 48 hours of the alleged contract leak, high-end consignment shops and digital luxury marketplaces like The RealReal and Vestiaire Collective started pulling Louis Vuitton listings off their sites. One popular reseller announced, "All LV items are temporarily suspended pending authenticity verification and origin tracing." But others were more direct. "We refuse to sell deception," one boutique owner declared in a viral TikTok, holding up a Louis Vuitton Neverfull like evidence in a fraud trial. In a business where reputation is everything, no one wanted to get caught selling what they now feared might be repackaged lies. Prices collapsed almost instantly. Bags that had once commanded $4,000 were now barely moving at half the price. Shoppers who had considered Louis Vuitton an investment, an asset that held or even grew in value, suddenly found themselves holding the equivalent of a luxury hot potato. No one wanted to be the last one left clutching a bag tied to a scandal. The fear wasn't just that they had overpaid, but that they had paid for a product no more exclusive than something mass-produced on Alibaba. With doubts clouding even authenticated pieces, resellers were caught in the crossfire, unable to trace the true origins of their inventory and terrified of inadvertently peddling counterfeit-level quality under a designer label. Fashion forums lit up in a frenzy. Threads exploded with heated debates as former collectors weighed the emotional and financial damage. Some debated purging their collections altogether. Others uploaded dramatic videos of themselves throwing out Louis Vuitton bags, declaring, "If they lied about the origin, what else are they lying about?" The panic wasn't about style, it was about betrayal. In the luxury market, trust is everything. It's what justifies the price, the prestige, the allure. And in a matter of days, that trust had evaporated. What remained was a market in freefall, and a brand scrambling to stop the bleeding. As Louis Vuitton scrambled to control the narrative, the spotlight turned to other luxury giants. Chanel, Dior, Hermès. Were they next? TikTok and Xiaohongshu lit up with new investigations, users demanding proof of origin, videos calling out suspicious factory locations, and influencers begging brands to show receipts, not stories. Former consultants and supply chain insiders began speaking anonymously, warning that LV wasn't an isolated case. One claimed, "The entire luxury industry operates on creative phrasing. Assembled in France doesn't mean made there." Hashtags like Mar Luxury Lies, Rue Expose LV, and Made in Where continued climbing, becoming rallying cries for a generation of skeptical shoppers. Suddenly, customers didn't want mystery. They wanted documentation. They wanted to see the hands that made their bags. They wanted video tours of the workshops, not polished ads. And for brands that spent decades building mystique, that demand for visibility became a nightmare. As the scandal grew, it wasn't just reputations at risk. It was billions. Within a week of the leaks going public, LVMH, Louis Vuitton's parent company, reportedly lost nearly $9 billion in market value. Stock prices dipped sharply as investors panicked over potential fallout. And the panic was justified. Legal experts were already circling. Several US law firms announced investigations into potential class action lawsuits. The core allegation? Consumer fraud, claiming that Louis Vuitton knowingly misled customers about the origin of its products, using the Made in France label to justify inflated prices. In California, one legal filing used the phrase intent to deceive, a potentially devastating accusation in court. Meanwhile, European lawmakers began pushing for change. Talks of stricter labeling laws gained traction, proposals that would force brands to disclose the entire supply chain, not just the final country of assembly. Luxury certification boards also began reevaluating what qualifies as made in France or made in Italy. And if those standards change, Louis Vuitton may be forced to relabel its products, or worse, recall them. This was never just about one bag or one brand. What Kanye West allegedly exposed was far bigger. It was the collapse of a carefully constructed illusion. The idea that luxury equals quality, craftsmanship, and tradition. For decades, Louis Vuitton sold a dream that every product was the result of painstaking care by French artisans in picturesque ateliers. That story gave their bags value far beyond leather and thread. But now consumers see the truth. The luxury wasn't in the craftsmanship, it was in the perception. It was in the belief that they were buying something rare, noble, and untouched by mass production. And once that belief crumbled, so did the price tag. Industry insiders have known the truth for years. Many luxury items are assembled in Europe, but built somewhere else. That single phrase, made in, has been used as a loophole. Brands slap on the final hardware or trim in France, then legally call the item European made. It's a bait and switch, and now the public knows it. Even longtime fashion consultants are speaking out. One told a blogger, "The industry survives on illusion. The moment people ask, where was it really made? Everything falls apart." Kanye West may not have dropped another Yeezy or topped the Billboard charts, but his alleged leak has sent shockwaves through the fashion world. By pulling back the curtain, he exposed more than just a supply chain. He revealed an industry built on secrecy, illusion, and prestige priced higher than truth, and the reaction has been explosive. Now, brands stand at a crossroads. Will they double down on mystery and marketing, or will they adapt to a world where transparency is no longer optional but expected? Consumers aren't asking for perfection. They're asking for honesty. And if the luxury world wants to survive, it'll have to give them that. Because the truth is out. The dream is broken. And there's no going back.